Welcome to episode 40 of Driver Seat Blog Radio. I'm your host, David G. Firestone, and it's official. 2 weeks technical problem and 2 weeks crisis free. I'm happy for that, and I'm also happy that I get to make this announcement finally. Starting in January, in addition to this channel and DGF 2099 Productions, I'm going to be launching a third YouTube channel called Dave's Pinball Challenge. It's going to be on pinball and only pinball. It's going to be on the various forms of pinball, including full-size table, virtual, and bagatelle, and I'm looking forward to it. I've been working on this since August, and I'm really excited that I'm close to completion. Now, we're going to go on to this week's podcast. While I will not be discussing the championship situation for a certain international racing sanctioning body, there are some developments in NASCAR that I feel need to be discussed. So Adam Stern of Sports Business Journal discussed some of the TV revenue details that are coming out between NASCAR and the Race Team Alliance. Now, the following were all direct quotes from the article. I don't want to read the entire thing. I'm going to give you some of the highlights. Number one, the teams held an extraordinary meeting with a group of media members on Friday in Charlotte to discuss the situation after they sent NASCAR a 7-point proposal months ago and received an answer last week that was not to their liking. Issue number two. The current TV deal, according to this article, is tracks get 65%, 25% goes to the teams, and 10% goes to NASCAR itself. Now, the current TV deal itself goes through 2024, so whatever the new proposal was to start in 2025. Now, starting in 2023, NASCAR will start formal media rights talks with broadcast companies. Now, sponsorship comprises about 60 to 80% of most NASCAR's team annual revenue, and the team leaders pointed out this is far greater sum than most other sports. According to the RTA, calculations have shown that 93% of the value of the sport is represented by the sanctioning body and tracks, while only 7% is represented by the team's value. Now, the theme of the meeting was that the economic model of the sport for teams is broken and needs fixing, or else the future of the sport could be in question. The teams say that they are not profitable and that the current endless hunt to find sponsorship is becoming both unsustainable and draining their resources from trying to grow in other parts of their business. The team leaders also said that NASCAR's response was more about cutting costs of teams than to try to grow revenue, and I'll have more to say that in a little bit. But teams are already at their breaking point in that regard, and I think the focus should be trying to grow the pie. Teams have also indicated to NASCAR that they are open to some kind of budget gap, but the sole focus cannot be cutting costs. Now, the teams have formulated a subcommittee to handle the topic, and the execs who met with the media on Friday were the four execs of that subcommittee: 2311 racing investor Curtis Polk, who has a mind-numbing line coming up; Joe Gibbs Racing president Dave Alpern; Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, God, that's a mouthful to say, president Steve Newmark; and Hendrick Motorsports vice chair Jeff Gordon. Now, Curtis Polk had a line in this article that is kind of amazing to me. NASCAR is a money printing machine, but the teams and drivers are putting on the show. So NASCAR is a money printing machine. Okay, TV views have been recovering, but are not great. I mean, you're getting 3 to 4 million people per race on a network thing, 2.5 to 3 at best on cable. Now, after the pandemic, attendance was way up, but now it's beginning to go back down. Due to the current economic times, fans aren't spending as much money. So when profits are down, viewership is down, ticket sales are down, merch sales are down, and when everything is down, that isn't making money. And the tracks, to be fair with the current deal, yeah, the tracks get the lion's share of the TV deal because of the three groups, they have the most expenses and damages per race weekend. as opposed to NASCAR on the teams. Second off, if the RTA's calculations are correct, the team's value only amounts to 7%. I have a very hard time believing that. Now, if you said 10 to 15%, maybe I would buy that, but these numbers seem off. And the fact that there was no evidence of how this calculation came to be was provided, that doesn't exactly help their case either. Now, why there hasn't been a budget cap up to this point is kind of amazing to me. And I'm sorry, but the idea that, well, we can't just cut costs. Yeah, you can. Okay? You have to cut costs. I'm sorry, but if you're not making money, you got to cut costs. It's just that simple. And I mean, supposedly Hendrick Motorsports hasn't turned a profit for some time, but when you're one of the top teams in NASCAR and you have a lot of driver success and you have good merch sales and you fail to turn a profit, I'm sorry, but there's just again, I don't like the idea of firing people, but spending still has to be cut. It's like if you're loaning money to somebody, but they don't want to change their habits. Why should I loan you money? What, you're going to just keep spending it and not change? And with the current economic situation, I don't see any of this getting better anytime soon. This is going to be hard to do, but teams need to cut their spending. They need to cap their budgets. They need to lock down deals with sponsors. Because if things keep going the way they are, sponsorship money, which again is 68% of revenue, is going to become much more difficult to get. You can't just throw money at something with no major spending plan or changes within a proposal, because you need to figure out a way to cut costs, cut fat, with more money coming in to get your profits where they need to be. These are not, non-for-profits. These are for-profit businesses. I mean, if you have to cut free coffee to make profits, cut free coffee. If you have to increase workload, increase workload. Most of the people listening to this right now work at businesses where these things are a reality. Everyone has to take cuts. If you have to cut payroll, cut payroll. If you have to cut wages, cut wages. If you have to fire people, fire people. But money, and I know it sucks, money isn't flowing like it was back in '96, where races could get 4 to 5 times both ticket and viewership and television viewership than it does today. You got to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. If you have to get rid of a few people, get rid of a few people. If the teams if the pit crews have to take a pay cut, you got to take a pay cut. And I know it sounds bad, but that's just the way it is. If you have to get rid of, if you have to have one person do more work than 2 people, oh well, that's just how it is. Now again, I don't know who. Now NASCAR said they're doing meetings with media companies, but off the top of my head, I don't know who is going to be paying more for NASCAR. I mean, obviously NBC is not sticking around. They've proven themselves to be completely useless. Especially, and they were useless when they had NBC Sports. Now it's just embarrassing. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got CBS, which I think might be a good replacement. I think it's been too long since CBS has been a NASCAR broadcaster. I think they should come back. I don't think Fox is going anywhere. They're much better than NBC was. I don't know if Turner's on the table. They might be. But other than that, I really don't know who is going to be the next magic pick. I do think that if they decide to go streaming only with races, it's going to end up a disaster. NBC already tried this, as I've said before, with the Toronto Grand Prix, the IndyCar of Toronto, or whatever it was, and it was such a disaster it couldn't even generate a number. It couldn't even generate a 0.0. That's how low it was. And I think also with streaming of live sports, it's proven that it's not where it needs to be. So I'll be interested to see who comes out on top, because I know NBC is going. Their sports coverage is coming to an end soon. I mean, they've already lost. They've lost baseball, they've lost the NBA, and they've lost the NHL. What else do they have outside of NASCAR and college sports? Not much. And they don't have a dedicated sports network, and they don't want to put races on CNBC or MSNBC or one of those other stations, even though they could. But it's just, this whole media thing is just, it's amazing to me that that people think there's more money there than there's ever going to be. It's amazing some of the things that have been going on with behind the scenes crap. The media, NASCAR needs to realize what they are. Not what they want to be, not what they think they should be, what they are. They need to understand the ratings that they have. They need to understand the viewership that they have. They need to understand where they are in terms of American sports. This is not 1996. This is not 2002. This is 2022. And if they figure this out and they come up with a reasonable deal, I think you're going to get some decent bids. But if you want more than what you think you are, don't even try it. That's why they had to come up with the Cup Series thing, where all the sponsors only have to pay $2 million a year. I think it is like $2.5 million a year. But yeah, so that's the situation we find ourselves in terms of the NASCAR media deal. So that was a tough one. I'm working on something for next week. I'm not 100% sure which direction I'm going, because I've got two things I'm working on, and if one of them comes in before the other, I will be more than... I'll discuss things when we get there. I'm Dave Firestone. Thank you for listening to episode 40 of Driver Suit Blog Radio, and please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will see you all next week.